All right. We got to keep it down here today. Welcome back to the Y.E.S Longevity Podcast, where we give you some insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. We got another fired up crowd in the background today. Hopefully we can keep it down a little bit until I get through this. Yes, a lot of emotions out there today. It's an emotional time for weeks now. Anyway, so here we go. What do we got? A little housekeeping. Closed Thanksgiving Day, although we are going to run two metabolic workouts, one at 6:30 and one at 7:45, just to get people their workouts in. Nothing too special, not running a special burn to bird like we normally do. We have some competition, although in these workouts, I think we're going to put together a little bit of a competition. They just don't know about it yet. So we got that. If you are coming on board for those workouts, make sure that you sign up on Mind Body. Family and friends are welcome to come down. It's always a good time. And then we are closed on Friday because we're slackers. And we're open again on Saturday. And quite honestly, we're never really busy on Saturday. This is a weekend where people get together, typically with family, though I know how much family they're going to be getting together with this year, but it's just like a gather yourself for the next 4 weeks or so before Christmas hits and New Year's. So we're typically not really that busy on that Saturday. So hopefully we are, but we are finishing up our COVID cleanup challenge this week. Got to get your in-body scan in by Friday night. We're not accepting any scans after Friday once we close. Nothing happening on Saturday. It's close. Got some great results with some people here. And we'll announce who our winner is next week on our Tuesday podcast. And maybe I can't do that. Anyway, we got some great results of people losing fat, people gaining muscle, people transforming, just getting back into exercise and staying with their exercise through this pandemic. Good for their mindset, good for their immunity, good for how they feel about themselves. Just a good all-around event this year. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, it's finally here. The launch of my Get Stronger, Live Longer, The Expert's Guide to Strength Training for Longevity. My book is ready to launch tomorrow, Wednesday, November 18th, between 4 and 6 p.m. I'm going to put a link above if you're so kind to purchase the book. It would help me in my efforts to be able to reach more people with my mission on trying to help people not just live longer, but be able to enjoy those extra years to do the things that they love to do it with the people they want to do it with. So that is what my goal is, and that's what my passion is. And I want to talk about that a little bit today, what my passion is. And if you are so generous to want to purchase more than one book, if it's a small book, 5x8, maybe a little stocking stuffer or something like that, packed full of information and research, I'd ask you to make individual purchases. So if you're going to purchase 3 books, make 3 individual purchases. It helps us in our algorithms. We're trying to get this book to be a #1 seller. And that's what we need to do between 4 to 6 p.m., just with the link above. So I'll leave that link for you when we're all set here. Also, I have some special bonuses. I have 4 special bonuses. I'm going to list the bonuses above in the text. If you email me your receipt, I'm going to give you these extra bonuses. Things like 2 weeks access to my Get Stronger, Live Longer online digital program. We've got a 4-part lecture series on longevity that I did just recently. We've got a couple of at-home workouts for you from Epic Fitness. We have information from Alec Lieberman on what keeps people from getting in shape or staying in shape. And we have a real good thing on habits with Grace Barnick, another one of my friends in my mastermind. So that's some great bonuses. If you're going to make the purchase, you might as well get the bonuses. So just email me your email address and I'll get those bonuses out to you right away. So what I'm going to talk about today is why I do what I do. I've talked about this before. Maybe you've heard it before, maybe you haven't. But I'm going to tell you the whole journey here and why I do what I do. And really the culmination is this book and is this 12-week program for strength training that can be done at any level. It has modifications in it. It's got just packed full of information. And I hope you pick it up and enjoy it. So let me set the scene for you. It's way back in January 20th, back in 1970. I was 10 years old. It was 8 o'clock at night. I was already in bed because back then we went to bed early. We went to bed at 7 o'clock so my parents could have parents' time, alone time, right? So it was always difficult for me to get to sleep because I went to bed so early. My friends are still outside playing. Sometimes they're knocking on the window, things like that, making fun of me. And this night was no different than any other night. I was, having a hard time getting to sleep. And I grew up in a small cape in Brewster, New York. And my bedroom was downstairs on the first floor, just off the kitchen, down the hallway, just off the kitchen. And this particular night, like a lot of nights, I could hear my mom doing the dishes. My dad was watching some television in the living room. So it was just a normal night, like any other normal, night that I needed to get to sleep. But what made this night a little bit different was the phone rang, which was very unusual because my dad had a strict rule: no phone calls after 7 p.m. And I could hear my mom talking, but I didn't really pay much attention to her until I heard what I thought was someone crying. Now, being a very curious 10-year-old that I was, I kind of sneaked out of bed and was wondering who was calling at this hour. And if I was calling at this hour, why did I hear somebody crying? So I kind of peeked my head out the door and looked down the hallway, and I saw my dad's head down on the kitchen table with his arms crossed, and he was crying. My mom was standing over him, comforting him. I kind of got really scared. I mean, all of a sudden, I got this big knot in my stomach. That was my dad. He was crying. I mean, this big, strong man, he was my idol, but he was crying like a baby. I started to whimper. I could feel tears going down my cheeks. And my mom could hear me. She started walking down the hall, so I quickly jumped back into bed. I don't want to get caught out of bed. I don't want to get in trouble, right? And she just came into my room, and she talked to me gently and said, "Hey, listen, everything's going to be okay. Tuck me back into sleep. Tuck me back in so I go back to sleep." As you might imagine, I didn't really get much sleep that night at all. But the next morning, my mom did tell me why my dad was crying. She told me that my dad's brother, my Uncle Jimmy, had passed away. It was my dad's only brother. It was just my brother and Uncle Jimmy, the only, two people in that family. And Uncle Jimmy was only 46 years old, okay? He was 36 years old when he had his first heart attack, 36 years old. He was also battling diabetes, okay? And this ultimately would end his life. And this was kind of scary for me at 10 years old. If my dad's brother could die, so could my dad, right? And this was the only time that I ever saw my dad cry. And that left a very lasting impression on me. A lasting impression at an early age. And it kind of lingered with me my whole life up to this time, right? So now we're going to jump along here a little bit. And this thought revisited me again, okay? So at this point in time, I was 34 years old. I'm married to my lovely wife, Pat, and I have one child, my daughter, Paige. Life was wonderful, having a good time. We're enjoying living in our new house. We've been in our house for about a year. And Paige was about 1 year old. And my father-in-law, Gene, was diagnosed with cancer. And as it turns out, Gene passed away on August 28, 1993, at the young age of 48 years old. 48 years old. So now my uncle passed away young, my father-in-law passed away young. As you might imagine, Pat, my wife, was extremely upset. It left such an empty feeling in my stomach. You know that feeling you get when, a loved one is so hurt, and there's really just nothing you can do but just kind of hold her and console her through these tough times. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking that I had two family members pass away at a young age, okay, in their 40s. Uncle Jimmy at 46, my father-in-law Gene at 48. So let's go on a little bit further into time here, 1 year later. The day that my father-in-law Gene passed away was August 28, 1994. My wife was up at the cemetery visiting his grave. I was home with my two children at the time. Paige was now 2 years old, and Max was 5 months old. My sister Wendy called. For the phone rang, she called and said, All she said was, "Daddy is dead. Daddy is dead." I was speechless. So you might imagine I was overcome with emotion and disbelief. I was just standing there frozen in time. I had just seen him the prior weekend. He seemed fine. Like there was nothing wrong with him. I was scared. I got that same knot in my stomach I felt when my Uncle Jimmy passed away. She would return home from the gravesite, visiting her dad, and we held each other and we cried. See, my dad, he passed away from a heart attack in a bathroom at a Subway sandwich shop about 2 miles from my parents' house, just right there on a Sunday morning. I had all I could do was to hang up and just stand there, waiting, hugging my wife, holding my 2 crates. My dad was only 64 years old. 64 years old. That's young. And at that point in time, he was the only person on his side of the family that lived to their 60s. I was really sad after it kind of settled in, knowing that my children would never know their grandfathers. My Brooke, Jake, they were born after that. They would never know either their grandparents. Paige, 2 years old, how much can she remember? Max was 5 months. What could he obviously remember, right? They would never experience those special relationships that you have with your grandparents, especially your grandfather, okay? I don't want this for my grandchildren. I don't want this for my children or my grandchildren, okay? However, more than that, I thought I was doomed, okay? Doomed because of my genetics. My uncle, my grandparent, my father-in-law, now my dad. So my dad's death kind of pushed me towards completing my graduate degree in exercise science. And with the passing of so many family members at such a young age, I wanted to help people live longer, but not just longer. Like I said, I want to help them to be able to enjoy those extra years, doing what they enjoy doing, being with the people they want to be. And this is where my why began. This is my professional why. I didn't really quite know it at the time, but it is where it really started. So I acquired my personal training certification. I gained experience working part-time at the YMCA. It's a great experience working for Mary Holly. Just an awesome boss. And I did this for approximately 8 years while I was building my small personal training business. And during this time, I was employed by DB Mart, and I was an area supervisor overseeing multiple gas station convenience stores. And back in the summer of 1977, DB Mart purchased Dairy Mart. Suddenly, DB Mart was twice its size. Okay, so this new size that they had created new levels of management, which would hopefully create some advancement for me. Because, personal training at the time, think about this, in 1997, people weren't going around doing personal training in people's homes. That certainly wasn't a thriving business. In fact, my brother thought I was going to starve to death doing this. How would I ever provide for my family doing this? But I was overlooked for promotion, and that was extremely disappointing, because I had been a top producer for DB Mart for 9 years. So I decided it was time to leave. Time to leave that, and I went to run the Nordic Track store. This was like in October. The Nordic Track store in the West Farms Walk. I thought it was a perfect fit. I have retail management experience. I have a degree in exercise science. This would mean success. Wow. In only 3 months, Nordic Track closed all the retail outlets. No retail outlets, no locations. So now, I had 3 children, and on my way to another child, and no full-time job. I just completely decided at that point in time that the corporate world was not for me. I would be responsible for my own success and my own failures, not putting it up to anyone else. So I took my education, my experience at the YMCA, and opened up Fitness Advantage, personal training studio. It's the best move I ever made. And, I work hard in my own business, but I'm in charge of my own, I'm in control of my own destiny. So obviously business had its up and down for the next 15 years. My focus was helping coach people in exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle. And then, when you think about 1998, there weren't a whole lot of small personal training studios, especially in Burlington, Connecticut. So it was a challenge to do something that really was on the cutting edge of what was going on. I mean, you'll see personal training studios now everywhere, but not back then. So I needed some help sustaining my business, so I joined Results Fitness University, an awesome decision. Their fitness coaching, business coaching, Alan and Rachel Cosgrove, top people in the business. So one of the first things we needed to do was assign my marketing. I needed to develop a laser beam focus on who I wanted to train. And during this process, I decided to rebrand my business and become Y.E.S Fitness, where I would primarily coach people over 40. We are the experts at training people 40 plus. We train all ages, but we are the experts at 40 plus. We know what to do. We've been doing it for a long time. So, while working in the rebranding process, I came across a life-changing fact. Only about 20% of how long you live, on average, determines how long. Only 20% of how long the average person lives is determined by the genetics. Let me get that out straight, because it is alarming to me every time I read it. So only 20% of how long you live, the average person lives, is determined by the genetics. The other 80% is dictated by your lifestyle. Like bingo. There we are. Genetics isn't the only determining factor. It's a very small fraction on how long you live. It's all about lifestyle, the changes you can make. Okay? And so that is where my passion has driving me now. You know, when I first heard this, I was really ticked off. I was really ticked off because my dad passed away, my uncle, my father-in-law, and they didn't have to pass away. Just simple changes in their lifestyles. They could have lived longer. I was really ticked at the time. And after a while, I kind of settled into the fact that, hey, you know what? They didn't know this at the time. It is what it is. But let me help as many possible people as I can going forward. Because I don't want to see people miss out on their grandchildren being born, the children getting married, you know, dancing at the weddings, missing holiday gatherings, although maybe not this year, right? Graduations, all those kind of things, right? So for the past 7 or 8 years now, I put all these systems that I have together, 30 years of experience and knowledge, and I jam-packed it into this book, Get Stronger, Live Longer, The Expert's Guide to Strength Training for Longevity. It is a cutting-edge program on how you need to train. If you're doing the stuff that you did way back when, maybe even 5 years ago, bicep curls, a lot of bench press, knee extension, hey, you're doing something, but you're not really being efficient. And it doesn't take that much time to do. So it's in my book, and that's where my passion comes from, okay? And that's why I do what I do. And I'm hoping that I can get this book to be a #1 seller, so that it can propel me to help more people. So you can help me help more people live longer, live better, feel better, be able to enjoy those extra years. So again, Wednesday, the 18th, that's tomorrow, from 4 to 6 p.m. It's critical from 4 to 6 p.m. that's when a purchase is made. You can buy it whenever you want, but to help me, 4 to 6 p.m. is where it's at Eastern Standard Time. The link is right above. Email me your receipt, and I'm going to email you these bonuses. They're fantastic bonuses. You'll get a lot of information out of it. It'll help you live a better life, okay? Which is what we're all about, right? Help you get fit, feel younger, and live better. And I appreciate any support, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. And if you do purchase the book, thank you very much, and I know it'll be helpful. So have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.